Culture on the move. Out on the move. Agriculture on the move. Agriculture on the move.
Hello again, St. Lucia. Welcome to the program, Agriculture on the Move. My name, Philip Sidney, your host. Today, I would encourage you to get your pen and paper. Those persons who are agricultural hobbyists. So we are talking about tips for backyard gardening. Okay, you decide to buy a lot to build your home. 10,000 square feet. The first thing you will decide to do is to construct your home, get your contractor to design your home, and also where the house will be placed. The area may be flat, or it probably rolling land. That's, of course, you decide what to have. Of course, what's going through your mind is that now you have placed your home, you would like to landscape your home. Traditionally, the front of your home, you like a lawn, you like flowering shrubs, hibiscus, roses, etc., especially the wives. And that's tradition. And then you'll think about your vegetable garden that you like to establish to the side of the house or the back of the house. The next thing I'm thinking you would want to get of tree crops. Okay, so today we are going through it section by section. The first thing you need to do is your plant selection. Secondly, your site preparation. Then planting. Then pest control, fertilizing, and of course, plant care. Let me go through some of the plants that we have available for you at the Union Propagation Station and also in Bath Nursery in Sufuye. You will get oranges, grapefruit, limes, lemon, mango, tangerine, othnic, coconuts. And as I'm on coconut, there's nothing called grafted coconut. It's dwarf nut. It means it will bear very early and very short, okay? Cherry, soursop, avocado pear, civet, Jamaican ackee, plums, golden apple, pawpaw, carambola, wax apple, and of course you can put your banana and plantain in the melee. But then in the selection of your plants, one of the things I would encourage you to do, well, I would, for example, in the front of my home, especially we are looking at our food and nutrition security. Right now, we need to grow what we produce. Eat fresh, St. Lucia's best. Try to cut down on our importation. And I know some of you now are using that avenue to get your tax rebate. So you have a lot of hobbyists out there who are inclined to get their little backyard going. But for me, in the front of my home, I would plant vegetables and other crops that I can use, my herbs, in my kitchen. But of course, that is traditionally the housewives who would like to plant, like I said, the flowering shrubs. Okay. The plants that you're going to select will have to do with the soil type and, of course, the ecological zone where you are. Because if you're living in Cap, you would realize your plants chosen, it has to be selective. But there's certain plants that will not be able to survive this rough terrain, and the soil type there is not really conducive to some of the succulent plants that we are producing. So you'll have to decide what plants that are hardy enough to stand the test of time. You're also dealing with salinity. When the wind blows from the seaside, you know what can happen to some of those plants. So it may not be advisable to plant plants that are very susceptible, especially when it comes to drought. Coconuts can survive anywhere. They can survive salinity, they can survive, drought. All right. So you decide, you go up to Union Station, to the plant propagation station, and you will buy the plants. You'll go here, there's an avocado pear, and of course next to it is a lime. What's the size and the height of the plant? Okay? You'll decide that because of the height, which is maybe about 1.5 to 2 feet, and the size, you'll decide to plant them 5 feet apart. Okay? Then you plant maybe 25 plants. Okay? And then at the end of 3 years, you have a jungle in the back of your house. Okay? You'll have plants growing very stringy, competing for light, and you need light for the process of photosynthesis to manufacture your food, and of course for flowering purposes. So you need to select carefully. Then you do not want to plant plants, especially those with a root tap, a taproot system that can, closer to your house, it can break the wall of the house, because the roots will buttress and it will break the wall. You cannot plant it close to your septic tank. It will damage the septic tank over time. So you need to know the plants you are going to get, and you need to plant them at a distance that it will not be a burden to you. So I would suggest that you plant your backyard, say your vegetables and your herbs, closer to the house, okay? Either on raised beds, or you can build beds and you can plant your herbs closer to the house. Away from the house, then you can plant your fruit trees. Just your selected ones. You choose what you want. Maybe you can accommodate approximately between 7 to maybe 8 to 10 plants, depending again on the terrain and also your soil type. Okay? Please do not plant, plants with a large canopy like mangoes too close to the fence, because the plants, the branches will go over the fence to your neighbor, and of course the fruit was offered free. They can pick the mangoes. But it becomes a nuisance also, because you have a lot of leaves dropping, and then of course if your neighbor and yourself are not on good terms, then it causes problems. So you have to be careful. The other thing we are looking at after you have selected your plant is how are you going to plant your plant. You realize the plants are in polythene bags, okay? So the first thing you do is to either make a mound for your plant where you're going to plant it. So you dig a hole and you bring up all the soil, and then if you have pen manure, you can mix it with that soil and put it back in the hole, and then you plant your plant in. But you must remove the polythene bag. That polythene bag will not rot. I've had instances where people call me and they said they would plant a plant is 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and the plant is still stunted. And when I investigate, we would find out that they planted the plant with the polythene bag. And that plant will remain stunted because the roots are not going anywhere, and the plant will just stay stunted for many, many, many years. When you are planting, you realize the soil in the bag, you do not plant that plant way down in the soil so that you cover the stem of the plant. You plant it at the level of the soil that's in the bag, and then you leave it as is. Okay? Of course, one of the things you have to watch when you have planted your plant is if your branches are going over the house, that means that your roots are already under your house. So that's why you have to be very careful where you plant those tap-rooted plants. The coconut can be a little closer than your mango and your other tap-rooted plants. When it comes to your vegetables, like I said a while ago, you can either plant them on raised beds. You can use so many different angles. You can use PVC pipe. You can use the tire culture. You can use A-frame. I mean, just name it. You can, there are various ways to plant your vegetables. All right? It's also wise, after you have planted your tree crop, you need to mulch your tree crops. That will enable you to retain moisture in the soil, okay? Ordinarily, if you are a farmer, there are spacings for your plants. For example, your limes are 15 by 15, your grapefruit 20 by 20, your mangoes by maybe 25 by 25, and your coconuts about 40 by 40, okay? That is if you're planting for commercial, okay? Now, your pest control, you would probably notice your leaves of, especially your citrus, they are curly, all right? Once you see the leaves are curly, it means, therefore, they are attacked by some pest. And most likely, it's either scale insects or aphids, okay? So you need to monitor your plants when they are planted. Because what would happen, I'm sure those of you out there would notice, I get calls nearly every month about the control of the leaves are black, and what would cause the leaf to get black? You have your scale insects and your aphids, they would give out some sugary substance. And that sugary substance will encourage the growth of what they call sooty mold. Yeah? And that would cover the upper epidermis of your leaf or leaves. Okay? What would happen also, the curly aspect of the leaf or leaves would be caused by the sucking insect. They will bite into the lamina of the leaf and cause it to curl. And you'll see them turning yellow and they will fall. The yellowing you see there is not as a result of lack of nitrogen, which is one of the symptoms. You'll get in your plant getting, leaves getting yellow. But then it can be caused by the sucking insects, the scale insects and the aphids sucking on the lamina of the leaf, right? And the leaves would, if it's not attended to, they would defoliate, and of course the tree will be stunted. It will not flower properly, and it will not give you the production that you require, and of course it can die. So therefore you would need an insecticide, and you also need a fungicide, right, for control of the aphids, the scale insects, and also the sooty mold. So you need both of them, and they have to be compatible. If you spray for the fungal control alone, the insects are still going to be there because you did not use an insecticide to control the insects. So you need to get an insecticide with a combination of a fungicide. And the fungicide they're using these days, in my heyday, was what we call the border mixture, and other things like this. But then now you have Timorex Gold. It's an oil-based fungicide. It's very, very good. And you can mix it with a number, either or. I'll give you a list of insecticide that you can use. You have Caprid, you have Tara, you have Pegasus, and you have Arimite. If you go to the places that they sell those chemicals, you can ask them for some assistance, and they can guide you as to the use of it in terms of the amount that is being used at any one time. So you have to be mindful of this. And they will tell you how the spray cycle, if it's every 6 weeks or every 2 months, until that insect and that fungus, goes away. So you have to be very mindful how you tackle that activity. Okay. So do not leave it on your own. And some people they will say they would use soap water, and stuff like this. That won't work. The other thing you can do too, since it is oil-based, you can use a sticker. There are many stickers, Agral. You can use even a little liquid soap in the mixture, so the chemical stays on the leaves and also the bark. You'll notice the back of the tree, will also turn black. If you have any like fruits on the tree, you'll see the blackness and also the scale insects on the fruit itself. Okay, so you need to monitor, the tree or the trees in your yard, and the same thing goes for your herbs and also for your vegetables. But then you need to speak to your extension officer to guide you, because we do not really want you to use those harsh chemicals. We would like you to use organic chemicals like garlic barrier and neem and these kind of things. You can use that too. But then to get proper guidance, you need to speak with your extension officer. Then we move to your fertilizing. You have granular fertilizers, and also you have, soluble base fertilizers. Okay? You have the granule we have urea, you have sulfate of ammonia, and you have N, the P, and the K, which is the complete fertilizer. You need to speak to your extension officer to guide you, because as soon as you plant your trees, the next thing you would do maybe a week later is to fertilize with a nitrogenous fertilizer like urea or sulfate of ammonia. That gives you more vegetative growth, as it were. Okay? So when the plant has reached a stage and maybe just about flowering stage, then you give it a dose of N, P, and K, which is a complete fertilizer. And that would help in your flowering, it will help for fruit set. Right? So you need to know and monitor what you're doing. You also can use a foliar application of a soluble fertilizer, because your leaf here, if you know the characteristic of your leaf, there's something called stomata at the edge. And if you fertilize, then the leaves can take up the fertilizer in a soluble manner. Okay? So it's also wise in the young stage, especially in vegetables, you can water your plant with a soluble-based fertilizer, especially the nitrogenous fertilizers. Okay? In cleaning your yard, one of the things that you need to do, and maybe the waste from your home, is create some composting somewhere in the corner of your yard. And that you can use to build up your soil structure, and also to put around your plants at the base, of course, and that would ensure that you get some fertilization coming from the compost, going back to the soil, going back to your root system. Okay? Now, the placement of your fertilizer. You will know, and you should know, that anywhere the end of the branches of the tree, that is where your feeding roots are. Okay? So you would fertilize in a circular manner, right? Not at the base of the plant, because the roots are all at the end of at the end of where your leaves shoots are, your terminal shoots are. That's where your feeding roots are. That's where they are, and that's where you should fertilize. You can either do the broadcasting around, as I said, in a circular manner. Of course, you'll get to know the amount to use. You can check your extension officer, they'll guide you. If it's a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons or a quarter pound, depending on the age of the plant, okay? What, again, you should note, if you're using especially urea and sulfate of ammonia, you need to dig a little circle, a little trench, and you put the fertilizer in that trench and you cover it. Because if you just allow it to be exposed to the elements, they are what you call hygroscopic. The element out there would absorb it into the atmosphere, and you lose the what you require, the plant would require. So you would need to cover it. One of the other things that you can do too, especially if the plant is planted on a slope, then you only fertilize above the plant in a half moon manner, because you do not want to put it down slope, because what would happen if it rains, that fertilizer will wash out, okay? So you put it on the upper side in a half moon circle. Some persons, what you can do too, is you can dig holes around the plant, all right? And you can put fertilizer in there, and the fertilizer, the nutrients, right, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium will be released slowly, so that the plant can take up the nutrients, all right, very effectively. So even your manner, the way you fertilize is very, very important, and the time that you fertilize, okay? If you're using pen manure, maybe you're using chicken manure, or you're using cow dung, or horse, whatever it is, make sure you collect it and put it in an area for it to decompose. Do not use raw feces, raw cow dung, or raw chicken manure, right? Because while it is your anaerobic bacteria is working to break down that manure, there's a lot of heat in that dung, and it can kill the plant. It will burn the roots, right? So be careful. Allow it to decay properly to ensure once you are seeing things like earthworms in it, it means that it is good for use. Because if it's too hot, the earthworms and stuff will not be in there, right? So you have to be careful. You have to monitor this properly, and then you can mix it with your other composting that you have right there, and have a nice mixture. And when you are making some sort of soil mixture for your vegetable garden, then you know you have a very good mix for your gardening. If not, then if you want to buy, a peat moss out there, you can do that also. So it's very important that you know exactly what you're doing when it comes to your backyard gardening. Then you have a situation with your propagation. Plants are propagated seed or vegetatively, by cuttings, by budding and grafting, and also by air layering. Okay? Right. Now, if you look at this plant next to me here, that is the avocado pear, right? You will get an avocado seed, and you will plant it. And it will grow to a point, maybe when it is about pencil size, then you will graft it, right? There are various methods of grafting, okay? You can do your wedging, or you can do your inverted V. Okay? So you get your variety that is required, and then you can graft your avocado pear. Okay? So you have the correct variety that you require. Okay. That goes for the mango also. But here's another trick that can happen. You can plant a mango long tree in your yard, or maybe a palmy mango, and it can be used as a rootstock. And then you can put in about 5 varieties on that one stalk. So you can have a Graham, a Julie, and the list goes on that. So instead of having 5 or 6 different plants in your backyard, you can have one tree that could bear 5 or 6 varieties of mango. Okay? But it can only be grafted with the same family. So you cannot bud or graft an orange with a mango. That's 2 different species. Okay? So that you can do to have many varieties of mangoes in your yard. The other thing you have to do, or to know, the mango tree grows very big. The canopy is large. That you don't really want in your yard per se. So you need to prune the mango tree. You need to get advice from your extension officer, and they will teach you how to prune the mango. That mango tree in your backyard is for a home use. You're a hobbyist. So you really don't need, 200 mangoes. You need just enough for consumption at home. So you need to prune your mango tree, very, very, very well. You have to understand this, okay? You have to ensure that you do not plant again the plants too close to your home, to the house, to the structure, too close to the fence next to your neighbor, and to ensure that you are able to have a good root system. You have a very good crop of whatever trees that you have planted, and you would know exactly what you're doing. So the tips again here before I end will to tell you, you look at your plant selection, very key, know what you want to plant. Secondly, your site preparation, your planting method, your pest control, your fertilizing, and of course your plant care. And the end result now will be your harvesting. Of course, you should know when to harvest your mangoes, you'll see them ripening, etc., etc. If you're spraying and there are small plants, before you harvest, allow that drawn-out period so that the pesticide has worn out of the system. And that goes for your vegetables, okay? The other thing you have to watch, sometimes you plant a tree, say an orange tree, and it maybe have just about 2 branches, and will start to flower. The best thing to do is to remove the flowers, because yes, the plant is maybe physiologically mature to bear the fruits, but it's not physically mature. Because if you allow that fruit that is bearing there at that young tender age, you would have all the nutrients going to that fruit. Okay? The other thing you need to do is to remove any side shoots below the scion of what that fusion is. Remove those branches, because that stalk may be a sour orange, and if the sour orange stalk will take over the sweet orange, and then you'll say that the minister sold you sour orange. So monitor it, remove it, because it's closer to the root system. It will grow faster than the main shoot. So these are the little tips that you need to observe, people, and if you do that, then of course you'll have a nice garden at your home. Remember, agriculture is our business, and eat fresh. St. Lucia's best. You'll enjoy your fruits from your home. I'm Philip Sidney saying goodbye and enjoy the tips.
Agriculture on the move.
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 Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.